Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice, the podcast for women who are done waiting for the one and ready to become the parent on their own damn terms. We're talking fertility, pregnancy, emotional chaos, and the village that it takes to raise a kid. Sometimes you're crying in the bathtub. Sometimes you're crying because your toddler bit you. And sometimes you cry because you chose all of this. Welcome to Motherhood, solo style. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Choosing Chaos Solo Motherhood by Choice. I am your host, Laura. Endometriosis is a chronic and often misunderstood condition where tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside of it, causing inflammation, severe pain, and in many cases, fertility challenges. It affects an estimated 1 in 10 women of reproductive age, yet it can take years, sometimes even decades or more, to receive an accurate diagnosis. For Tori, the delay wasn't just frustrating. It was life-altering. After years of navigating the physical and emotional toll of endometriosis, Tori faced a devastating reality. She would lose both of her fallopian tubes, a moment that could have marked the end of her fertility journey, instead becoming a turning point. We often talk about how critical it is to find the right doctor, someone who listens, who respects your goals, and who advocates for you because your health and your future matter too. The right support can shape not only your care, but your options. Tori's story is just another reminder of that. And while losing her fallopian tubes was a significant chapter, it was far from the end of her story. Today, we are diving into Tori's journey, what came next, and how she continued forward, finding new paths and possibilities along the way. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choosing Chaos. I am joined by Tori today. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a pleasure to meet you officially off of TikTok.
Of course. So glad that you had me.
I'm glad that you are able to join me, but also I'm very excited to learn your story because I know a little bit about it, but for the listeners, let's just go back to the beginning of your story. And can you introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and then also what life looks like for you right now?
I'm Tori. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana right now. Life looks like total chaos right now. I'm married. We are coming up on our second anniversary on the 2nd, and we have 2 kids, a 5-year-old boy, Connor, and a 3-year-old girl, Lydia. I had Connor. She had Lydia. She works full-time. I normally work full-time, but I'm taking a break right now to work on life stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what life is like right now. Connor just started kindergarten, and so we're just navigating that.
That's a big milestone.
Yes, it's insanity.
How do you feel as a mama sending your kid to all day kindergarten?
Oh my gosh. Like in my head, he's still a baby.
Yeah.
I'm sending him off to kindergarten and just seeing all the stuff that he's learning. He goes to a immersion school, so it's all Spanish. And so it's just incredible to see him, speaking Spanish at school and his teachers talking to him and him understanding, and he reads and he writes. And I'm like, where did you come from?
Right? I have a hard time picking up Spanish as an adult. So
Mhm.
I can't imagine a 5-year-old. That's amazing. All that they can learn.
It's just incredible. I mean, he's only been in school for 6 months maybe, and just the amount that he has picked up. And then of course in turn is like sharing with little sister. So now like she'll correct me and be like, no, mommy, that's not blue, that's azul.
That's so cute. When did you first start thinking about becoming a mother, and especially a mother on your own?
I think I've always known that I wanted kids. And then probably in like my mid-20s, I started to kind of like do things to like align myself in like that path. I'm trying to think of like careers that would be like family friendly and kind of look at friends who had kids and what they were doing. Excuse me. Course in a series of like failed relationships, and you talk about kids with them, and I think it like became serious of endometriosis, and it was I never want to say it was well controlled, but it was better controlled for a while, and then it was very much out of control and controlling my life. Pain was terrible, the periods were terrible. When I first got diagnosed, you have to have a laparoscopic surgery, and woke up from the surgery and she was like, yep, you definitely have endometriosis. And I had to remove your right fallopian tube because it was so clogged up with endo. And so I think that's when I first started like really thinking about my fertility on the front end.
Right.
But, everyone was like, oh, it's no big deal. You still have your left tube. Everything's fine. And then 2 years later, my endo started getting worse again. And I was having like super bad pain. I just thought it was like an endo flare. Had surgery, and I remember like I was sitting in pre-op and I told my surgeon, because there was a lot of like pain on my left side. It's like, if it's a problem with my left ovary, just take it out. Like, I will figure out stuff later, but like if it's my ovary, just take it out. I can't deal with this anymore.
Right.
And sure enough, I had what was called an ovarian torsion. There was a cyst on my ovary that was so large that it was causing my ovary to like flip on itself.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that before, but that sounds painful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But because I was just so used to like my pain from my endometriosis, I would just like chalked it up to that and didn't really look into it. And so like there was just a lot of damage caused from that. So I did have to lose my left ovary and my left fallopian tube. And that was, I'm going to say, November of 2017-ish. And so I was like, okay, well, I just have a right ovary. Um, and that's when I really got serious about, okay, like if I want to have kids, then I really need to like hop on it because I don't know how long I'm going to have this ovary. And I wasn't in any relationships at that time. And I was just like, okay, what if I do it by myself?
Right.
And so I did a lot of research, and that's when I kind of learned about single moms by choice. And I was like, oh, like I could do that. My job at the time was chaotic. I was a caseworker with Child Protection Services. So like my hours were really crazy, but I was like, either I do it now or it's not going to happen. And so I really thought about like the financial aspects of it and like looking into like fertility clinics. I didn't really like jive with the ones. I lived in Mississippi at the time, with the clinics around where I lived. And so I don't know how I stumbled upon the one in Atlanta. But I did and ended up talking with them. And so while all of this is going on, we're probably in like 2018. So we get to like 2019 and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I wanted to start the testing on my ovary to figure out like my ovarian reserve and all of that.
Right.
And so while all of this is going on, I start having pain on my right side.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
say, oh shit. They did an ultrasound and I had a 3 centimeter cyst on my right ovary. And so they had given me meds to try and shrink the ovary. I mean, shrink
Right.
the cyst on my ovary. Well, we didn't know at the time that my endometriosis loves estrogen and progesterone. So actually, in a week, it doubled the size of the cyst. It went from a 3 centimeter cyst to a 6 centimeter cyst.
How painful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Which made the cyst about the size of my ovary. And so I I was in talks with the clinic in Georgia. They had given me like the list of like the hormone testing that I needed to have done and an ultrasound. I think I was going in for the ultrasound first, and then I was going to go get the lab work done at a clinic in Mississippi because there's no point in going all the way to Georgia just for an ultrasound and blood work. And so I get there for the ultrasound, and it's like three quick swipes, and like he hands me like this picture and he's like, all right, we're done. And I was like, oh, like, well, how many follicles did you see? Like, we're supposed to be like counting eggs or follicles or something.
Right.
And just like nonchalantly told me, he was like, oh, you don't have any. um like there's nothing there. Like, it was devastating. I was like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? Like, nothing. Like, they
They
were
also just seemed like
awful.
they kind of washed their hands of you in that moment there. It almost just takes all of your hope away.
It did. And I was just really confused because like I went to another fertility clinic, like this is what they do. And
Hmm.
like I was like, are they mad that I'm not like using them? And but I was like, I'm already here. I'll just get the lab work done. And so that place that I went was like 2 hours away from where I live. So I remember like driving home and just like crying and thinking like, what the fuck do I do now?
Right.
Um, and I started doing research on like donor eggs. And then I was like, well, I also don't have like a partner. So I would be like, I was already going to need like donor sperm as it was. And
Right.
so I was like, oh my God, like this is going to be like an insane cost, like trying to get the donor eggs and donor sperms and do IVF.
Right.
Um,
I
and
can't imagine the cost of all that. I mean, IVF alone, just for the meds, are very
I
expensive. But then you add in two donors.
mean, they're like egg donors starting at like 8 grand, and like sperm donors at like $700 a vial, and you might
Right.
need more vials. And I was just a humble state employee that lived like a college student. Like I didn't have any savings.
Right.
And so I was doing all of this on like a wing and a prayer. And I was looking at the fertility clinic's website and saw that they also had a little like page on donor embryos. And I was like, this is interesting. And so I kind of like did like a little deep dive on that. And then I did a lot of research into like donor conceived people and like their feelings on things. Cause I was like, if I do this, like I really want to do this like as ethically as possible. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use a donor embryo. And so all of this took place March of 2019 with the fertility testing and everything. And fast forward to like July, that right ovary was still giving me grief. And so I sat down with the reproductive endocrinologist. He called me on the phone and was like, look, according to your testing, you might produce an egg like every couple of months, but you have like diminished ovarian reserve. It was probably destroyed by all
The
the
endo.
cysts. And he was like, I think an egg donor would be like your best bet. And I was like, okay. And that was just the okay that I needed.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to get this ovary removed and I am going to donor embryo. And I had surgery July 17th, 2019 to remove my ovary. And even though I had a plan and I was going to try and get pregnant right after, it was still really rough to do that final like bit of it's done. Once you're done, like you're done. There's no going back.
Yeah.
And I remember when I had the surgery to remove my left ovary, I had to sign paperwork saying that I knew that I was being sterilized. And that was rough. Because I mean, I was 27 at the time.
You were young. Yeah.
And for my pre-op appointment to get my right ovary removed, they had to ask me so many questions, I guess, for insurance to cover it or something, to make sure that I wasn't doing it like as a free way to get like sterilized or something. And
Oh.
I remember because this was like the most questions I'd ever been asked, like during a pre-op appointment. And it was stuff like, how long had you been trying to get pregnant? And
Right.
I just remember crying through that appointment because it was
I'm so
just
sorry.
so hard. And the medical assistant who was talking to me, I'd been to this OBGYN clinic for years. Like she knew me and I could tell she hated having to ask me these questions. It's just for insurance purposes and all of that.
But even that, I mean, it's invasive questions that they ask women sometimes, and even though they have to ask the questions, it's hard to be asked those types of questions because it's not a choice that we want to make.
Yeah, and it's like, if I had any other choice, like I
Hmm.
would make it. And hindsight is 2020 because knowing what I know now, like there are other things that could have been done. But like I said, I was young. I had access to a wonderful OBGYN who did the best he could, but
Right.
he was not like an endometriosis specialist.
Which I feel like a lot of them don't, they're not like specialized in that.
Right. It's like they learn about it in med school, but
Hmm.
that's about it. And I mean, knowing what I know now, I should have had like excision surgery. Instead, they were like ablating the endometriosis, which really doesn't get rid of it. It just gets rid of the top half, but there's still the root that can come back.
Oh,
But I had the surgery to remove my ovary and put me into like actual menopause at 28, fun stuff.
you're so
And
young.
yeah, like it's funny even now. Like I'll go to a doctor and they'll be like, "When was your last menstrual period?" And I was like, 2019, and it's like, "Huh?" Like,
Right. But you're so young. Yeah.
hours.
Right.
Um, and so I had the surgery, and about 6 weeks after that, I was in Atlanta for IVF prep appointment where they did a mock transfer. And I think I was just such on like a high of like being there and finally starting that like nothing could bring me down. I talked to my nurse who was going to be assigned to me. I met my doctor in person and they like went over all the protocols. And so for me, because I didn't have any ovaries or like a cycle to contend with, basically what they do is like like a mock cycle almost
Mhm.
situation, and everything was perfect. So I had to go ahead for the next month to start meds again for my own transfer cycle, which was really cool. I guess like the perk of being in menopause was that my estrogen and progesterone meds were covered by insurance
That's nice.
under it being hormone replacement therapy. And it was like, hey, look at that. Look at that perk. I was excited and ready to go. And so at the end of like my cycle, I drove to Atlanta for a weekend, and my transfer was on a Monday, and got there super excited, had my transfer day shirt. I forgot my socks at home and I was like devastated. I had like these transfer day socks, so I stopped to get fluffy socks because you read all like the wives' tales, like you can't have cold feet because then you'll have a cold uterus. And so I was like, I have to have warm socks. But I got there and I'm laying on the table and I'm ready to go. And they put a picture of your embryo on this like big screen TV in the room. So that was the first time I ever got to like see it. I said to my doctor, I was like, "Isn't it so cute?" And he says, "Don't you mean handsome?" I was like, "Huh? Just tell me what I'm having." Um,
Did you not want to know?
I was gonna find out through like the nip test. Like I wasn't opposed to it, but I was just like,
Surprise.
what? But
Yeah.
so remember, I said that my mock transfer went perfectly. My actual transfer did not. And they could not get the catheter to pass through my cervix. It was awful. And so,
Oh my
like,
gosh, I'm so sorry.
this is like a really rare fluke. If you're listening, this will not happen to you. Crazy things just happen to me. And so when you prep for your transfer, they have you like fill up your bladder so that it pushes your uterus up so they can see it on screen better. And so like I've got this full bladder and like they're trying to pass this catheter through my cervix and it's not going. They end up having like they tried manually opening it, which sounds as wonderful as
Yeah.
wonderful as it sounds. Finally got it to go through, and like they show you like on ultrasound, like you can see like a little bubble, and that's supposed to be like your embryo. And so it's all done. I'm like low-key traumatized after it. My doctor
Yeah.
is so apologetic. And then you're supposed to like lay there for 5 minutes before you get up to pee. I'm laying there and my bladder hurts so bad. And I'm
It's
like,
the longest 5 to 15 minutes ever.
it was so long. And I remember like watching the clock and being like, all right, it's been 5 minutes. I've got to go. And so, like, I'm driving home, which is like an 8 hour drive. And I'm just like, holy shit, am I pregnant? Like, does this work? Thinking all these thoughts about how it was such a bad transfer that it probably didn't work.
Did you
And
stop and get your McDonald's French fries?
I got Chick-fil-A French fries.
Same.
Because that was like closest when I was given the embryos, I was given two. So they just use like the best graded one for that transfer. And so I had to work the next day. So I get home late, go to sleep, get to work. And I remember I was walking down the hall and I kept smelling syrup. And I was like, why do I smell syrup? And then one of my coworkers had eaten French toast sticks with syrup in her car on her way to work. And she had
Your
thrown it
smell
away.
was already, yeah.
And I was like, am I crazy? Like, there's no way I'm already having like symptoms.
I've heard though with IVF, sometimes they happen almost immediately.
Apparently so. And I
Yeah.
guess it's because my embryo was already hatching when they placed it. And so my sense of smell is weird. Like I feel kind of funky, but also like it could have been like the meds. And so I take a test, early response, because, in the IVF world, the pink dye tests are supposed to be the best tests. And then there was like this little faint line. And I was like, is that really a line? What? And
Am
so
I
then,
seeing
like,
things?
I took a digital test, and the digital test it said no, but like a line is a line, like that's definitely a line. And so I took another dye test, and that one lit up darker, like almost immediately, and the digital one said pregnant, and I was like, holy shit!
What
And
was your immediate thought? Because mine was, oh shit.
it was oh shit. I was
I was like,
like,
did this happen?
the next day, of course, I'm taking more tests. Like I'm taking tests every day, and my line
Yeah,
is getting
just to confirm.
darker.
Mhm.
And
It's like a peace of mind. I kept
yeah,
taking them until I was like graduated from the fertility clinic.
something about like seeing like the lines and the lines getting darker, it was just like so comforting.
Yes.
And so it was probably a week after my transfer. I woke up and I was feeling crampy. This feels like my period cramps. So I called my nurse and I was like, oh, hey, I'm super crampy. This reminds me of my period cramps. And she was like, cramps are normal. We don't really worry about it unless it's like cramping and bleeding. Cramping and bleeding is not.
Yeah, because
Get
it
to
can
work.
sometimes be like an implantation cramp.
Yeah, that's what they said. Get to work. And I was in a meeting and I was like, what is this? Went to the bathroom and I'm bleeding. I
Oh,
start crying and I call her back and she was like, calm down, take a deep breath. And she's like, we'll just go ahead and send you for your beta test now. So I go to the OBGYN clinic and I am just in tears waiting for this blood test, openly like sobbing in this waiting room. I get the blood test and they're like, we'll get the results in a couple of hours.
mhm.
And so like I'm waiting, and it pops up on my portal and I was like, okay, whatever it is, I'll deal with it. And my first one was, I think, 117.
Which is good, right? Because anything over 50?
Yeah, anything over 50 is good. And this is like 7 days post transfer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, but then like I had to wait 48 hours and take another one. The next one is like 280.
So it
For
was
some
going
days.
up.
It was going up. And I was like, oh, okay. And so they had me come in for a third one 48 hours later. And that one had gone up too. And so that what I think it was just like my uterus trying to like clear out whatever like yuck was in there. Is probably like some implantation bleeding. I thought all the thoughts and I realized in that moment I do care about this pregnancy. And I went through all the thoughts about what do I do? I only have one more embryo after this. And so with IVF pregnancies, after your transfer, you're like 3 weeks pregnant. Like at the date of transfer, you're 2 weeks, 6 days pregnant, something weird. I was technically, I think, 4 weeks pregnant at this point, and I had to wait until 7 weeks for my first ultrasound.
It's
And
like
I
the
was like,
longest 3 weeks ever.
yeah, I was like, why can't I have one at 6 weeks? Some people have them at 6 weeks. And they're like, no, we wait till 7 weeks because you should have a pretty strong heartbeat by 7 weeks. Sometime in the middle of week 6, the heart hasn't started beating yet. And so we do them at 7 weeks. So I think I was originally scheduled for an ultrasound at 7 weeks and 2 days. But then I called and I was like, do you have any openings sooner? And so they were able to get me in at 6 weeks, 5 days. And so I went in and it was transvaginal ultrasound. She puts it up on the screen and she's like, there's your baby. And it just looked like this little like blob. And
Like a
then,
little shrimp, I called it at 6 weeks.
yeah, it just looks like a little something.
Yeah.
Um, and showed me where the heart was beating and I could see it had like a strong heartbeat. And I'm like, holy shit, like I'm really pregnant. I was considered high risk for my pregnancy because it was an IVF pregnancy and I had a
Right.
history of multiple abdominal surgeries. And I was on blood thinners. And so the doctor that I was seeing, which really was just the first one that could get me in, I felt like really wasn't taking that seriously. Like I would ask questions and he'd be like, oh, like it's nothing to worry about. And me, like, I'm worried. This is my pregnancy. Like, I am worried. And so I ended up scheduling with the doctor who delivered my best friend's baby. My pregnancy went really well, still working as a caseworker. So I was here, there, and everywhere. I had my baby shower. I was supposed to have 2 baby showers, and they were going to be a week apart. And so I had my first baby shower. This is when we were first starting to get rumblings of COVID.
Oh,
But that's when they were starting to talk about shutting things down because it was getting out of hand. And so I had my first baby shower and it was great. Loved it. And
the day the world changed.
yep, March 17th, 2020 for
Yep.
us at least. That's when they were like, take your laptops home. You guys are going to work from home. And it's trying to figure out how a CPS caseworker works from home.
Right.
And then 2 weeks turns into 4 weeks and we're still working. We find out a way to do court via Zoom. And so I know in clinic, rules were changing on a weekly basis about who can come into the office, who can be there for delivery. And I had pre-COVID enlisted the services of a doula because I wanted some strong pregnancy labor support.
Right.
I was trying extra hard, not to get COVID.
So like not seeing anybody really.
Yeah, went from hanging out with people all the time to not. I was doing a pregnancy exercise class every week that got canceled, and I didn't have my other baby shower. I remember it was May. I don't have maternity pictures. I was gonna get maternity pictures, but I can't do that. And my best friends was like, "We're gonna do your picture." She's like, "I've got this new iPhone. It's got this really cool portrait mode. Put on a dress. Come to the college campus. We're gonna do this."
Right.
And so she took my maternity pictures and there she turned out so great. And I was like, at least I get this because I would have a couple pictures of me pregnant, a couple selfies that I did trying to remember as I got bigger. But this is the first me dressed up and all that.
Enjoying all the pregnancy.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
be able to forget for a little while. Because I had also ordered all of the super cute pregnancy work clothes that I didn't get to wear. It was nice to be able to do a normal pregnancy thing. And so June, we were preparing for when I would deliver right at 39 weeks because at my 36 week appointment, they measured him and he was already measuring at 6 pounds. He and I were getting kind of big. Loved Dairy Queen. It was right around the corner from my house.
What was your go-to?
They had this animal cracker blizzard that was just amazing. I went there so many times. It was shameful. We had planned out my induction for me going into the hospital the night of June 20th to start the induction to hopefully have a baby on the 21st. June 20th also happened to be Father's Day. And so my dad came down and was hanging out. And the plan for him was that, he would come see me for Father's Day and then he would go back home, which was 2 hours away. He would come back when the baby was born. And we're hanging out and I know I'm supposed to be at the hospital at 9 p.m. and clock is ticking. And I'm like, so Dad, when you leaving? And he was like, oh, I'm gonna stay. And I was like, what?
Forgot to tell you that.
Okay. Not exactly how I was gonna spend my last baby free day, but okay, let's do this. And so they tell you to call the hospital before you come in to make sure there's room. And so I called and they're like, oh, come in at 11. So I get there, they put me in my room and I brought my own gown and people were like, oh, it's just gonna get dirty. And I was like, I'm gonna wear my own gown. The other time that I've worn a hospital gown, bad things have happened. I want to wear something where something good is happening. Around 6 a.m. the nurse comes in, checks me, and she was like, oh, you're 10 centimeters. I can feel your baby's head. And
Also, that progressed very quickly.
I guess all I need to do was relax. And they start coming in to do like the flurry of like taking the bed apart and bringing like the delivery stuff in. I look at my doula, I was like, I've got to brush my teeth. Why in that moment I felt like I needed to brush my teeth? I don't know. I was just like, I cannot meet my baby with a dirty mouth. And so we turn on I had made this delivery playlist and the sun is coming up and it's just this really good vibe going on in the room. I do some practice pushes and in between pushes, I'm singing along to my music because this epidural is amazing. I
Mhm.
feel like some pressure, but like I feel no pain. Like I am on cloud nine and I'm doing pushes and apparently I am a very effective pusher because I feel like after maybe 5 or 6 pushes, they had my doctor come in all gowned up and at 7:17 a.m. Connor was born. It was magic. And I'm like, I had a baby. And I really think it finally clicked, like when they placed him on my belly. And so in my hospital, you labor and deliver in one room, and they take you over to postpartum. And my postpartum nurse comes in and she's like, we're going to get you like dressed. She's standing up because they'd already turned off my epidural at that point. She's like, we'll take you over to postpartum. And I had said something to the effect of, can one of the nurses like watch my baby so I can take a shower? And they're like, oh, we don't do that. This is a baby friendly hospital. Your baby stays in the room with you at all times.
They
Um,
didn't have a nursery?
nope, there was no nursery.
Okay.
Um, and I was like, but who's gonna watch him while I take a shower? And she was like, well, typically they roll him in the bathroom. And I was like, but if he cries, I'll be in the shower. It was not computing in my head. And my nurse was like, we'll roll him in the bathroom with you. And while you're taking a shower, I will be observing you. And I was like, gotcha. And so like she stood in the bathroom with me to watch me so she could watch my baby while I took a shower. And I think that was like the first time it really hit me. I am a solo mom.
Yeah.
Never thought about this situation. I absolutely loved being like with my baby. I miss like conversations with adults.
Yeah.
And seeing people like this is like COVID world. Like you don't want your baby around a bunch of people because, I didn't want him to get sick.
Yeah, you don't want him at risk. Yeah.
And so I ended up talking to a friend of mine who lived a couple hours away. And I was like, you know what? I'm coming to see you. I need to get out of the house. I loaded up my car and we drove like 2.5 hours away to her house, like with all the baby gear, so much stuff. And I stayed for a couple nights
Oh, that's
just
special
to
though that
like,
you got that.
I just really needed that. It was just like a nice, chill maternity leave and like just like getting to know him and still being amazed that like I made this baby. And it goes by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was still hands down like the best decision that I made. And I'll sometimes think like, if anything had changed, then I wouldn't have this baby. Like I love this baby. There was never like any feelings about like, he's not genetically mine. Like this is my baby.
You still carried him.
Yeah, still carried him, still went through like 36 hours of labor with him,
Right.
felt his kicks. We had our routines.
I hate the saying that everything happens for a reason, but it's almost like all the things in your life led you to him.
I will look back and be so mad about everything that I went through and the surgeries but like if anything would have changed, I would not have him.
Right.
And I would probably have some other kid, but I don't want some other kid. I want this one. He is
That's
the
very
most
special.
magical, greatest little boy in the entire world.
Oh,
He was probably about a year old when I was like, I think I could look into dating. I think he's old enough, like, to see what's out there.
mm-hmm.
And so I got on a couple dating websites. I put in there that I think my profile picture was me holding him so you could see the back of his head. And I put it in there. I'm a single mom by choice. I have this kid. If you don't kids, get lost.
Right. I'm not interested.
Years old. At this point in my life, I don't have time to like play these silly little games. My work had brought me to New Orleans. And so I was like, okay, go to New Orleans to do this thing for work. And then I'm going to take Connor to the aquarium. And so I'm putzing around waiting for like these papers to get signed. And I decided, let me flip through Tinder of all places. And like I'm just like swiping indiscriminate, not thinking much of anything. The next day I open the app and it's like, you've matched. And I was like, huh? Oh, let's see. I look at the profile and it's this really beautiful woman who's like, I'm pregnant, I'm a single mom by choice. And I was like, holy shit, no way. And so I send this message I thought was so stupid, but she loved it. And it was like, hey, oh my gosh, I'm a single mom by choice too. We should hang out. Stupid. Um, but we ended up like messaging. I find out like she's a physician and she lives in New Orleans. She's not from here though, but she's been here for a couple of years. We're texting and she says like she wants to grab dinner, but how could we meet? Because she lives in New Orleans. I live in Hattiesburg. I was like, look, I really don't want to take any more time away from my son. So she's like, how about I come to the coast after you have class one day and we can go grab dinner there. And me and my friends are like, oh my God, she's going to drive an hour and a half to come see me. Usually I'm the one who's having to put in that effort. We meet one day after class. We go out to this, I think, Japanese restaurant, and I'm so nervous. It's a good time. I think I said something like, I had to stop at like Sam's afterwards. So she was going to come with me. But we were driving separate cars. And like when she got out of the car, like she just awful. She's like, I'm so sorry. I promise I'm not blowing you off. She's like, I've got a migraine. Between our last stop and this one, she looked real bad. And I was like, no, go home. And like, she gave her a hug and we parted ways. And like, she texted me later on and she's like, I'm so sorry. I promise I was not blowing you off. Like, I get these migraines now that I'm pregnant. And I was like, no, I get it. And so the next week she met me again. We got dinner after class and it was fun. And I was like, I really like this one. And I was like, okay, I need to see how she is with Connor. Normally I would not bring him into something this soon. However, I just need to know,
Is it worth investing your time in?
yeah. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to come to the New Orleans Zoo. Do you want to come? And she was like, yes. And she's like, I'll plan a picnic. And yeah, it was so cute. Like we get there and she had gotten like this little stuffed animal for Connor and had this picnic. And then she learned just how fast 18 months olds are. Cause like he was not about sitting. He had had a nap on the ride. So he was good to go.
And
But
boys, we'll say
yeah.
that, boys.
They were so super cute together. He was going to play with her and she was good with him. And I was like, okay, I could see this. And so somehow we ended up seeing each other every weekend. Either she was meeting me on the coast or she'd come to my house or I would go to New Orleans and we're talking all the time or seeing each other all the time. And she's also pregnant, I forgot to mention. During this time, right before I met her in December of 21, I decided that I was going to try for my second since I had another embryo. And so I had started the whole process over in January of 22. I was scheduled for a transfer in March and I was like, do you want to come with me? You want to come to Atlanta for the weekend? And she was like, I'm really sorry, I can't. My family's coming into town. I really have to do some stuff. She's like, but I've got all these airline miles. How about like you come to New Orleans first, hang out with me for a day, and then you fly out of New Orleans and I'll fly you there. And I was like, this real life. And so I ended up hanging out with her for a day or two. Connor with my dad, who was go hang out with her. You need to do this. And so I had my transfer, and it was not successful. It was the most heartbreaking thing in the entire world because one, I really wanted a second. I wanted Connor to have a sibling, but I mean, that was like the only genetic match to him. And I really wanted that for him.
Right.
I think I found out on a Thursday that it for sure didn't work. And she was like, can I come like see you? Left work and like didn't even stop at home to get stuff. Stopped at Walmart on the way to grab pajamas and a toothbrush and came to stay with me.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I knew she was a good person. She's a good one.
She is.
And how do you, it's like I was very envious, of course.
Yeah.
And then like trying to decide like, do I try again? Like, but even then, like I would need to find like either new embryos. Like, do I have the time? Do I have the money like to do all of this? And then timing wise, how do we navigate that? Because like we're getting serious. She was due in July. And so when I met her, she was already out of her first trimester. So we're 4 months away. And so we had to have this really serious talk about what are we doing? Like, are we doing this together? Are we doing this separate? Do you want me to be part of this kid's life? Like, we had a lot of like tough decisions to make.
Tough conversations that needed to be had when it was time.
So it turns out she did want me there in the supportive partner role, but she didn't want me to feel like I was obligated to be that if that's not what I wanted. But that is what I want.
Right.
She actually went into labor on her due date. It was a Saturday, so I didn't have to worry about work. And her labor was really beautiful. She really wanted to stay at home as long as possible. She labored all day. And probably that evening, her contractions started getting closer together. They tell you to wait until they're like
511.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was happening. Like, we'd all be more comfortable if you went to the hospital. And she was just like, okay. And so we go and have like the most bizarre experience in triage. They put her on the monitors and get her in a gown, and she's in the bed. I'm sitting next to her in the bed, holding her hand. Doctor comes in and looks at me and said, "Who are you, the doula?" And we're just kind of looking at each other. And she was, "No, this is my partner." Okay.
Don't make assumptions.
Yeah, I was like, that's just a weird thing to say, but okay. But they ended up like admitting her, and I ended up being like, I know you didn't really want an epidural, but you've been at this for a day. I really think you need some rest.
Yeah.
And so she ended up getting an epidural and got to take the good nap. At 11:05, Lydia Joy was born. I was there, and it was so amazing to see. There's this little screaming baby, and here I was, and I got to be there, and I got to be on the other end of it. Her family was able to come and see, and it was just a really beautiful moment. And then we kind of had to navigate what life would look like with us both having kids now.
Tell me a little bit about what it's like being a single mom by choice and being now partnered up with another single mom by choice in a relationship. And what was that experience like between the two of you, just conquering the world together as two single moms living life?
It's really interesting because I think a lot of people assume that since Connor was so little and she just had a baby and we were together, that we just became this automatic boom family. But it's just more nuanced than that. I mean, even just what do the kids call us? Because we're not step parents, but also at the time, calling mom didn't seem appropriate because I don't know, it just didn't. And we were still dating. We knew that we wanted to be together long term. I mean, we'd already talked marriage, but at the same time, there are babies. Connor is my baby, and to let him call someone else mom, like, hold on, even if I'm madly in love with this person, but this is my baby. And then my partner, my wife at the time, had no intention of being with someone when she had a baby. So, I mean, even just parenting styles were completely different. And so it was a lot of trial and error, kind of trying a lot of communication and trying to figure out, okay, how do we navigate this?
Yes.
I mean, just simple things like discipline. My friends know that if Connor is misbehaving, you stop him. If you see it, I don't mind. Partner did not feel like that was her place to do that. Like, if you want to, go ahead. But then also our styles of doing it are different. And my favorite, I think, was our philosophies on kids sleeping in the bed with you. Like, Connor slept in the bed with me pretty much the whole time. I do not advocate for unsafe sleeping with newborns. However,
sometimes you just have to do it.
Yeah, and we were in the thick of the 4-month sleep regression, and I needed sleep, and the only way to do it was for him to sleep in the bed with me so I could breastfeed and go right back to sleep. So I would put him to sleep in his bed, but eventually I would just like, come get in the bed with me.
Yeah.
Whereas she was very much like, baby sleep in their bassinets, baby sleep in their cribs. And so
Do you
I,
think that a lot of that comes from her medical background though? Because she knows like the SIDS risks. And again, we're not talking about like co-sleeping is definitely the way to go. However, sometimes you just have to do it. I've done it before. I've co-slept holding my son in a rocking chair because he also had trouble sleeping. Now I did it because he wore an owlet sock, which then gave me a little bit of peace of mind. But there are so many women out there in women's groups that rely on co-sleeping just because that is sometimes how your baby will sleep. They want to be close to mama.
yeah. And so I think it came from her like medical background, but also just the way we were raised, just philosophies on raising kids. And I think for a while I tried to help her stick to he's going to be in her bassinet. We will sit here and rock with her and hold her and put her to sleep in the bassinet 50 million times. I can't even remember when it happened, but Lydia ended up in the bed with us and everybody slept.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, I get it. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm not saying like the way I do it is right or wrong, but you kind of see why I do it though. And so it's just that trial and error of this is the way I do things, this is the way you do things. And I think it's really kind of awesome how we both have our strengths. The way she can just sit down and talk to Connor sometimes, I'm just like, how do you do that? He just listens to her and she will explain things and in a firm way, but not yelling or anything like that or even loud. But she'll say, this is what we're doing. If you don't do this, this will happen. He does that. Whereas I have trouble with that sometimes where I give too many chances. The way that we started melding our parenting styles, they really just started working together. But I talk a lot about this with my therapist because I total proponent of therapy. We are married and we are raising kids together. But at the same time, birth mom overrule kind of thing. I don't know how to explain it, but we very early on decided like we're going to treat the kids the same. You
Yeah.
know, where the same rules apply to both kids. For instance, when it comes to like picking schools, you know, I have my philosophy on things, on what I'm looking for, what she's looking for. But at the end of the day, if it was something for Lydia and she's just like, I want to do this, then you do that. Or if it's like something with Connor, this is what I'm going to do. I hear your perspective, but also this is what I'm going to do. It's never something that like the kids would see or know that like, you know, mommy is doing something with Connor that mama's not doing, like nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's just like sometimes we just defer to the birth parent.
Which I
And
feel like you would do that naturally in a blended family anyway. Because if I were to go into the dating world and say the person that I'm dating has kids, I probably would rely on them to make a lot of those decisions for their children, right? Whereas if they were trying to tell me what is best for my son, would be a whole different conversation.
I think that is exactly it. Because even though like have been in Lydia's life since she was fetus.
I was going to say, just barely even here.
Yeah. But also during the first year of her life, we were long distance,
Yeah.
and going back and forth. I was there, but Lydia also knows that my wife is her primary parent.
Right.
Like Connor, he knows that they've been in his life since he was a baby, but he also still knows that I'm the primary parent,
Your
if that makes
mommy.
sense.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to see how the dynamic plays out with the kids also, because when Connor was going through his super clingy phase, he wanted nothing to do with her. And Lydia is going through that phase right now where she only wants to be put to bed by my wife. And I just have to say, okay, like I
Right.
hate it for my wife because I wish I could do more. But sometimes it's just easy
And
And
we have
it
to try not to take it personally as well, right? Because it's nothing against us. It's just their choice in that moment. And that, to your point, that's what's best. And it helps to reduce any escalating tantrums.
yeah. We are always a united front with
Yeah.
the kids. They have tried to like come to the other parent and ask.
I mean, we
And
did that growing up, right?
yeah, I'm like, well, what did mama say?
Yeah.
And she'll be like, well, what did mommy say? Or let's go ask. Mama said no, so I say no too. I mean, at the end of the day, kids will still be kids. We had our fair share of arguments about child rearing. My favorite will always be Connor likes to jump on me and crawl on me. I ignore it. It doesn't bother me. He'll just start climbing on me while I'm having a conversation. And she's like, "Did you do something?" And I'm like, it's not bothering me. And we got into a little bit of a argument about it. And I was like, it doesn't bother me. Like, why does it bother you? And so I brought it up with my therapist and I was like, yeah, we had an argument about this earlier. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's my body. Like, what is the problem? And she's like, Tori, I am always on your side and I will always side with you. But your wife is right. And I was like, what?
Oh, did she say why?
Yeah. Just because like I had like surgeries coming up and previous surgeries and just trying to set those boundaries, making sure that it's always across the board. You don't jump on mommy. Because if I have surgery and we're saying, oh, nope, can't jump on mommy now, like,
You don't want to confuse them.
and so I was like, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I called her and I was like, hey, you were right.
I also wonder
And
if it sets them up to understand somebody else's body is like their temple, for example, and we don't touch unless we're given permission. So it starts to set them up for that.
yes. So she is very big on boundaries, respect,
Yeah.
and like, I don't like that for my body. So it also is confusing when I'm like, I don't mind if you're jumping on me, but he tries to do the same thing to her. And she's
She
like,
doesn't like it. Yeah.
and so I'm like, that makes sense, actually. Sometimes it does annoy me and just trying to like set like that consistency. It's been a really interesting wild ride, like trying to figure it out. But I think that we have finally gotten our rhythm, at least in parenting. Household management, not so much. I think
Most of the
that
time.
we finally have like gotten our rhythm and have gotten the parenting thing together at least down as
Yeah.
we learn.
Do you have any advice for women? Because we hear this all the time, like we're single moms by choice. Now we don't have time to date, or we'd love to date, but we're a little bit afraid to date. Do you have any advice for the listeners out there who may be thinking some of those thoughts, knowing that like you found love through your entire journey? And so did she on the other side too. It's like she wasn't expecting to find you and she did.
I think my advice is just like you didn't settle when trying to start your family, also don't settle in relationships either. I did online dating and I put it in my profile, single mom, kid, just that way people automatically know. Like if you're not in it, like I don't even need to talk to you.
Right.
Um,
Or if you have no interest in kids at all, like
yeah, like if you have
swipe.
no interest in kids, like
Yeah.
there's we really have no need to talk to each other. But also in the same respect, protect your kids. I saw it from the other side when working for child protection services. Like, everybody wants, I don't want to say everybody wants love, but we also have to just be mindful of who we're bringing around our kids and definitely like suss it out. I know I'm one to talk because I introduced them like by the third date, but also there was lots of talking and felt like, okay, this is someone I could introduce to my child.
It was a good
Um,
time.
but
But I think
definitely,
we see that all the time, and your background in CPS would really speak to that. Is some people, and I think you said it right, is like people want to find love, right? People sometimes just need that and really want to find that. And we all want to find that in some way, shape, or form. But some people are willing to sacrifice the red flags to have the partner at the, I don't want to say risk, but at the, what's the
Like
word
at
I'm
the
looking for?
detriment of
Of
what
your
they're.
child. Yeah.
And I am all for being upfront and saying, I have a child. And
Mhm.
also explaining how you got said child, because there are people out there I noticed when I dated, they're like, oh, I don't want any like baby daddy drama or baby mama drama. And I was like, there isn't any. Like, it's just me.
He comes from
And
Ohio.
people either think it's cool or they don't. And if they
Right.
don't think it's cool, then they're not for you. And that's
Exactly.
okay.
Hmm.
Also, in the same respect, know what you're looking for. If you are looking to date just to have fun, do that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're looking to meet someone just for a hookup, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're looking to date because you eventually want to get married, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, I feel the best part about being a single mom by choice is that we're getting to do things our own way and our own time. And we don't have to go by we have to date, we have to get married, then we have kids. And, we get to do things in our own way. And I think that's the best part. And so just remember that when dating, you don't have to follow what people say you have to do.
The
Just do what you
societal
want to do.
norms. Just be yourself. Enjoy life. I mean, we all made this decision breaking the societal norms anyway. So just keep doing it.
Yeah.
On your entire journey, is there anything that stands out that you would look back and do differently?
So we kind of joke all the time about how we're in our dating phase now. The kids are older and we can go out and do things on our own. I don't want to say that I wish I could have done that differently, but also we missed out on the fun part of dating where you get to just do random stuff and, hop on a plane and go here or have a sleepover that turns into, being there for a whole weekend type thing. And sometimes I wish that we would have gotten that. But also, if that was the case, then I wouldn't have been a single mom by choice. I think really the only thing I wish was different would have been not having a pandemic in the middle of my pregnancy. That was the biggest bummer, only because that's my only pregnancy and that was my only birth experience. And it got marred by that. I see other people's pregnancies and birth experiences and how different they are compared to mine. I do get a little jealous sometimes, but also these are the same people that didn't essentially get an 18-month maternity leave where they could stay home with their child and that kind of situation. Every part of it has its, like, that stings, but also has its positive. Because Connor by far is the best thing in my entire life. He is magic and I love the way he looks at the world. And it's just like being a mom is the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the best thing. I had always wanted two kids, and now I have my two kids, not in the way that I expected,
Right.
but I still ended up with my daughter, and who looks nothing like me. Oh, yeah. After our last session, I was telling my wife about it. She was like, did you even mention race in any of this? And I was like, I don't think I did.
But that
Um,
doesn't matter though, right?
it really doesn't. I don't notice it
Yeah.
until I'm out with the kids
And people
and
point it out
like,
or look.
yeah, and like Lydia will be like, "Mommy," and then there's this little blue-eyed, sometimes redhead, sometimes dirty blonde little child, and I'm like, "What is it, baby?" And people just kind of like, "It's my baby," you know.
But we need
Um,
to break down those societal expectations and norms too, right?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
these are my kids
Yes.
and I love it. And she is sassy, and she is 3 going on 43, I swear. She is hilarious.
Yeah.
And to see them interact together, they fight like cats and dogs, but also let one of them not be where they're supposed to. There have been times where one has had to go home from school early for whatever reason, and the other kid gets in the car. Where's Connor? Where's Lydia? They freak out if their Bubby or Sissy is not where they're supposed to be.
Aw.
But it's just been this happenstance of things not working out the way I thought they would work out, but also coming together in this amazing, beautiful way.
Mhm.
And it's just great. And sometimes I wish that the endometriosis stuff could have been different,
Yeah.
but also then I wouldn't have Connor,
Yeah.
and then I might not have a Lydia, and I might not have my wife.
Mhm.
And so I think
It's almost
things.
like the what ifs if we went back and we did the what if game, right?
Mhm.
And I say that too, is like, what if I had just started with IVF when I first decided to do fertility? Like, what would that look like? Where would that have taken me? How many embryos would I have had in the end? Would it have given me the son that I have now? I don't know. But to your point, everything happens the way that it should, good or bad, unfortunately. And I sort of hate that saying, right?
Right.
It all leads us, it all leads us to something in the end. It leads us, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, I guess.
It's like hard to explain
Yeah.
because I guess maybe in some alternate reality I would have a child, but it wouldn't be this child. And I don't want another child. I like these. I like the ones I have. I guess really the only things that I would probably change is the length of time I had to struggle with endometriosis to get here.
If listeners could take one message away from your story, what do you hope that that message is?
It would probably be you can still have it all, even when it feels like you can't. I mean, I distinctly remember wailing to the world, like how unfair it was that I was losing an ovary and then losing another. And it's a whole lot of it's not fair. Like, why does my life have to be this way? But in the end, it all came together. I have the children that I've always wanted. I have the partner that I have always wanted. I am doing a job that I've always wanted. And life has still turned out beautifully, even if it's not the traditional way of doing things. And that's okay. And if people don't like it, they're not your people. And even if those people are your family, sometimes it's okay to say, I've got to take a step back from you because this is what's right for me. You can still have the life that you want. You can still do what you want, even if it's not the way that other people think that you should do it.
That is a beautiful note to end on. Tori, thank you so much for all of your time with this podcast and telling us your story. I greatly appreciate it and getting to know you a little bit more, both through email and on TikTok and then through these conversations. I appreciate it so much. And I want to continue to see all of the things that happen with your family. Just
Yeah,
so
thank you.
inspiring.
Yeah, my wife always said that I should share my story. And so when I had this opportunity, she's like, yeah, do it. Because she thinks my story is cool. I'm just like, it's just my life. I hope that you all enjoy it. Um, it is different, but it's my life.
And I think too, one big message that I would say that listeners can take away from this is just because you are losing an ovary and potentially a second ovary, it doesn't mean that that's the end of your story. It can continue beyond that. Your fertility journey does not have to end there. And I think that you are a true example of that.
Yeah. And I thank the stars for a OBGYN who even though he was very old school, understood that and did not try and take my uterus like most others would have. They would have probably just given me a complete hysterectomy and called it a day.
Yeah.
But he left me with my uterus, and that's all I needed.
And we have to find those physicians that will advocate for us and support us through what it is that we're trying to do.
Yep.
Tori, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Tori's story did not end with loss. It evolved into something beautifully unexpected. Through the path of using a donor embryo, Tori was able to fulfill her dream of becoming a mother, a dream that at one point may have felt very uncertain, but never out of reach. And life had even more in store for Tori. During her postpartum recovery, Tori met another incredible single mom by choice. What began as a connection and understanding grew into something much deeper, a partnership rooted in shared experience, mutual support, and most importantly, love. Today, they're building a life together, raising their sweet, vibrant children, navigating the everyday joys and challenges of parenthood, and figuring it out just like the rest of us, one day at a time. Sometimes the path looks a little different than what we had imagined, but it can still lead exactly where we're meant to be. Before you go, thank you for being here and sharing this space with us. If choosing chaos has become even a small part of your journey, make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss more stories of courage, hope, connection, and choice. And most importantly, the beautiful, chaotic moments of single motherhood. Thank you for trusting us with your hopes and your hearts and for embracing both the beauty and the chaos alongside each and every one of us. Until next time on Choosing Chaos.